All right, so let's get started. Let's see where we are so far. I'm gonna run the server, and it's complaining that I don't have MongoDB running. So let me get the database running as well. Let me start the server again. Okay, it looks like it's running. And let me run local 3000. So some of you have asked me, what's this home page we have to get done by the end of the semester? It's this page. It's the root index page, right? So you might put a picture of yourself, and some of these links need to be on this page, right? But links to other things that you're doing, other interests, something that could be a landing page that that a colleague or someone who you're applying for a job, you should feel proud to share this with other folks. And if you want to showcase what you've been doing, come here. Right, this will be the place where they land and it says wow, right? And then links obviously to some of the things that are specific to this course, which is the assignments, the project. The project has its own landing page, right, which is everything that is under the /project directory, right? That index page is the landing page for your project, right? And there's another index page under /assignments, /assignment, right? That's the landing page for the assignment that we're working throughout the semester. For those obviously working with me on my own projects, you won't have anything in your project directory. Just maybe a link to the overall project, perhaps, or the GitHub to that project. But for those that are working on your own project, right, that should be the landing page, and also a link to your GitHub. But this should be, this should look spectacular, right? And it's okay to use templates that are already available that you can style, make it your own, and a picture of yourself would be great. All right, so where are we? Let's see. We are in assignment. We're in the login. I think we have Alice, EWQ. We have the profile. Some of you were asking, when you go to the website, when you say plus and you go to new website, how do you add a website or how do you delete a website or an existing website? So let me just cover that real quick. Most of you, I think, have already solved this. I just want to make sure we're talking about the same thing. So when you click on plus, you navigate to /website/new. Okay. Actually, that URL is not quite right. Right? It's not quite right. So let's fix that. This plus should go to what? /user/ the ID of the user /website/new. Right? So let's tie that to that URL. If we go to config, there it is. That's website new, and that should be tied to this URL, same as this, /new, right? And that plus over here should have the same route, right? /user ID /website/new. So let's fix this plus so that it navigates to the right place, right? So where are we? This is the website list, right? So let's fix that. Let's go to website list. Website list right here, and the plus. Where is it? Is it what's it called? Add? Is it called add? No, that's not it. Then plus, is it? Is it plus? There it is. Right. So the URL should match this URL right here, right? So let's copy that. It should be this URL right here, and we need the UID so that we can create a new website for that particular user, right? The website should belong to that particular user. I don't remember if we have the UID here, do we? User ID, do we? Yeah, there it is. So it's model user ID, which we're already using. We're using already that that variable that is being added already by the controller. So we can just reuse that. Okay, so let's go back to plus, right, and just paste it right here. So we'll add that. Then when we come back and refresh, we go to the plus. Notice the URL at the bottom, right? /user/123 website new. Right, so by the time we get to that page, right? By the time we get to that page, we'll know that the new website that we create is for that particular user, right? So if we click on plus, we navigate to new website. We are at new website, right? This is the page. Obviously, the form is not quite what we need, right? The form is it should allow us to enter the name of the website, right? Maybe a description of the website, and then say OK, and then navigate back to the previous page, right? So let's do that. Let's see. We'll need a controller for this, right? And we need also to edit this page. The form is not quite right, so let's edit the page. So it would be website new, and let's see. This is the list on the left-hand side, and at the bottom we have the form. We don't need an email. We need the name of the website that we want. Name maybe. Type is text. The ID is name. Placeholder, that's then name. Okay. And we just need one more thing. We need for the description. We can use maybe like a text area, right, for a description. So let's see. For this could be a description. So description. Type. I'm not going to use an input field. Instead, I'm going to use a text area. Text area. Right. Let's see if we refresh. We have a text area. It's not styled correctly. Let's style it with some bootstrap. So we'll use class, and this will be a form control. Okay, that's better. And let's remove the stuff below. We don't need any of this. So let's remove that. Okay, so it looks more like what we're looking for. Description for description. Okay, so this would be the ID would be description, right? ID description. All right, great. So now we need to tie this to the model in the controller, right? Because when we say OK, right, when we click on this OK, what we want to do is add this website to the list of websites. Yes, right, to the array of websites. We don't have a placeholder, so let's do a placeholder, maybe description, right? As a tooltip, or a hint of what we want here. Okay. Also, notice on the left-hand side, what do we need? We need the same exact thing. Oops, sorry. We need the same exact thing we had earlier, right? This list of websites, right? So why don't we do that on the left-hand side? So let's see. We need a controller for the website new. Let's do that. I'm going to copy this controller, right, and I'll rename it to website new. Okay, and website new, I'll rename it, right. This is website new, and implement it in the same place. And it's going to use the same website service. The website service. I'm going to need the website service because remember, any modifications, any read or write operation on the data should go through a service, right? So there's my service. What do I have here? I'm parsing out the website ID. There is no website ID, right? Because this is a brand new website, right? So I don't have a website ID. So I'm not going to parse that from the parameters. What can I parse from the parameters? I can't parse the user ID, right? That I can parse. So let's parse the user ID. I think it's UID. Okay, what about a website ID? I'm going to create a brand new website. What we could do is use maybe like a timestamp to create a unique identifier for the website. We'll do that in a minute. Here we have find website by ID. We don't need to retrieve one website. We need to retrieve all the websites to populate the left-hand side, right? So let's retrieve all the websites for this particular user, right? So it's find websites for user, and we can then pass it the user ID, which we have right here, right? Okay, and these are all the websites, and then we can populate the left-hand side. We can populate the left-hand side with an ng repeat, right? We can iterate over all those, and then go with do a here, right? We can do an li, and then ng repeat. A repeat of website in model dot websites, right? And this will be the name of the website. So this will be website dot name, right? And then we'll do the rest. We're not going to need the rest of the LIs, right? Those were just for filler, right? To see how it looked for layout purposes. But now I have an iterator that's going to generate is going to list all the websites, right? Right. Everybody following? Everybody still with me? Right. This is very much what we did last week for the website list, right? So I think I should be able to go a little faster today. Yes. Let's see. Websites. So we created the controller. We got the websites. We never did register this controller with that particular template, right? Let's do that in the config. Let's not forget that. So we'll say that the controller for this is that controller we just created, and we're going to use the controller as syntax, right? So that the view will refer to this controller by using that model. We just created a new file. We've got to remember to load it in our index page. Let's declare it here. Website edit, website new. How's that? All right. Anything else? I think that's it, right? Let's refresh. There it is. On the left-hand side, we have the list of the websites we have so far. Yes? Everybody okay? All right. And we want to create a new website. And so let's do that. Let's do the OK. When we click on this, what we could do is navigate back to the list of websites over here, right? Once we create a new website, or we could stay in this page, right? We could stay in this page. We could just keep creating new websites, right? I'm working on tons of websites, but I believe the assignment asks you to go back to the list of websites. Is that what it asks? I don't remember. I think it tells you to go back to the list of websites, right? So let's do that. Let's handle this OK button over here. So let's go back to the new. And the OK, where's the OK? Right there. Instead of an href, right, we're gonna bind this to an ng-click. ng-click because we need to run something, right? We need to run some code to be able to create the website and add it to the list of websites. Let's see. Is this the OK button that we need? Wait a minute. Am I looking at the right one? New website. New website. It must be this one, right? Yes, it's that one. I think it's that one. Okay. All right. So let's do an ng-click here. We're going to say ng-click, and we're going to tie it to the model, to the controller. We're going to say create website. Okay. And what we're going to pass along is the form elements of the website, right? What's in the form over here. We have the input field for the name, right? So let's give it a name. So we'll call it ng model, and we'll tie it to website.name, and this will tie it to ng model website dot description. Okay. Right, so that when we notice that it's a local variable, right? It's not tied to the model. I'm not saying model dot website name or model dot website description. It only lives in this page, right? So we're going to pass it along in our function in the click. Where's the ng-click? ng-click. Here, I'm going to pass it along website so that when the controller gets a hold of it, where's the controller? Right here. It'll receive it. Here, we're going to say vm.create website, right? It's declared at the top, but it's implemented down here, right? And this is going to receive as an argument the website object that we're passing from the view, right? So let's do a console website to see if we are indeed getting the object. So we'll do console, and let's add this to the left-hand side. So if we type something and we say OK, it didn't work. Wait, what's going on? Does it have an href? Oh, maybe I didn't reload. Let me reload. Okay, there it is. I hadn't reloaded. Sorry. So notice that the controller is receiving ooh, that looks weird. It's receiving the object instance of the website. Yes. This is almost ready to be added to the array of all the websites. Right. It has the right attributes, name, description. What's missing here? It's missing the ID. Right, that uniquely identifies this website, and it's also missing the user ID, right? The owner of this website. It's missing those two things, right? But we can fix that because we already have that, don't we? Let's see let's add it. We can say website. We can add website dot underscore ID. That's the unique identifier, right? That's the unique identifier. We can create a new date object. All right, and then get the time. This will return a unique identifier, right? You know, how many milliseconds have passed since 1970, January 1st since 1970. So that'd be a big integer, which is, for now, it's okay, right? It's a way of uniquely identifying this particular website. This will eventually be created by the database, right? When we look at the database in a couple of weeks. But for now, it's good enough, right? Also, we're going to populate the owner, right? Who's the owner of this website? It's the current user who's logged in, right? Which we know that user ID, right? We parsed it from the path parameter. I don't remember I don't remember, what was it? Oh yeah, UID. UID is how we are uniquely identifying the owner of this website. So let's go back and let's say that user ID is the user ID. The owner of this website that we just created is the user ID that we parsed from the parameter, path parameter. Right, so let's try that again. Let's say OK. Okay, looks okay, right? So we're at the bottom. It has the name, the description, it has the unique identifier, and the ID. Make sense? It looks like we have everything. We just have to add it, right, to the collection of all the websites. Right? Right now, we only have created Facebook and Wikipedia at this point. We're very successful web developers. So let's add it, right? So the way we're going to do that is that we should whenever we're manipulating any data, we should always go through a service website. So we're going to use the website to create the website, right? And we're going to pass the object, right? Notice there's a couple layers here, right? There is a UI layer, right? That has the forms, has a button, but it doesn't actually create anything, right? It doesn't know how to do this. It delegates to the controller, right? This is the controller. The controller, in turn, is responsible for handling user events, right? As the user clicks and drags and interacts with the user interface, is the one who it kind of sits in the middle, right, between the events being generated from the UI, right, and the model that is actually storing all this data. Yes? But it in turn is not the one responsible for actually creating the website, right? But it knows who is responsible for that. Who is responsible? The server is responsible to do that. So it again delegates this work to whoever is responsible for manipulating the data. You see the multi-tiered here? Right? The UI presenting, doesn't know anything about the data. The controller handling the events, right? Making the transition between user interactions and the data model, right? Between these two worlds. You know, this is a typical thing in multi-tiered applications where you have, each tier being very responsible for their particular part of the world. Okay, and that's their only responsibility, right? So we have this this create website. And so it doesn't exist currently in the website service. Let's add that. So let's go back. Let's go to the website service. Let's add that API. I don't remember what we told you to call it in the assignment. I think I called it create website. Did I? Is that what I told you to call it? I think so, right? So what's this going to do? Well, the only thing that it needs to do is just push it into the array, right? That's all it needs to do. We can say, let's implement it. Function create website takes as argument a website instance, and it has the array of website right here, right? You can just push it in there. Push the new website. So for now, the website is now added to the collection of all the websites. Yes, right? Now we can safely return to or navigate to where we should go next, right? Where should we go next? After we add the website, after we click OK, according to our assignment, we should navigate back to the list of websites, right? The website list, right? Which is it's this one, right? Which currently only has 2, right? So let's refresh. Let's click on add. Let me refresh this. But now let's create Twitter. Twitter.com, and I'm going to say OK. I want to say OK. Right? Presumably it's been added. If I refresh the page, it didn't work. Let's see what's going on. Oh, right. When I refresh, everything blanks out. That's not a good test, right? That if I refresh, nothing. A good test would be as follows. Let's see. We could just retrieve all the websites again, right? We could just retrieve all the websites and re-update the array on our left-hand side, right? See if that worked, right? Let's see. Let's refresh and say OK. There it is. On the left-hand side, it's being updated, right? So I know it was added to that array, right? It was added to the array. But really, what should happen is what? It should navigate back to the list of websites, right? So let's do that. So I know that worked. So instead of staying in this page, right, and updating, instead we're going to navigate to the website, to the list of websites. For that, we're going to need location, which it's a service that allows us to navigate, right? We can say let's go back to where we were before. I want to go back to where. I want according to config, website list has this URL, right? That's the URL for me to go to the website list, right? So let's that's where I want to navigate to, and the user ID, I do have that, don't I? Right? And it's the user ID right here, right? Okay, so let's refresh, and let's create Twitter. And when I say OK, right, notice that I went back to the list of websites. Notice that it's listed here now, right? Why is that? Because if you remember, the controller for websites, right? The first thing that it does is that it queries the website service, retrieving all the current websites that exist, right? And that's why it populates. So if I create a new one, I can say plus. I go back. Notice that it's listed on the left-hand side correctly, right? Right. I'm going to create CNN.com. I say OK. Notice that it's being listed correctly on the left-hand side. Make sense? Right? What about edit? Did we edit? I forget. Okay, yeah, we did start editing, right? Remember that we started editing? If I go back, okay, if I click on Wikipedia, notice that it is retrieving the correct website for that particular ID, right? What about these two? Notice the ID that it's using, right? Those are really freaky IDs, right? Those are all timestamp that we created ourselves, right? That we are now using for uniquely identifying this this object over here. So the only thing that I wanted to look at here is what about removing or editing this, right? So let's look at that real quick. So in edit websites, we have this OK button here, and we need like a delete button down here, right? So let's work on the update first. All right, let's work on the update. So to do that, in the edit view, let's look at the OK on at the top level. So it'd be what is it? /OK. right? It's a hyperlink right now. Okay. Ooh, sorry. Yes, thank you. Good catch. Website edit. This one. Thank you. Find the OK. There we go. Again, when I'm going to say OK, I don't want to blindly navigate anywhere, right? I want to execute some code which is going to update the name of the widget, the website, right? And then return to the list of websites, right? So let's do that. I'm going to remove the hyperlink, and I'm going to say ng-click. I'm going to say update or model dot update website. Now I'm going to pass as argument the local object instance, right? Which is going to have the new name of the website, right? Actually, do we have that already? I think we did work on the form here, didn't we? The form is way at the bottom. Where is it? There it is. Oh, okay. It's already tied to model.website.name. Okay, so that's what I'm going to pass. That's what I'm going to pass. So let's go back to OK. I'm going to pass model.website. When I click on OK. And on the controller for this, which we built, I believe, on Monday. Did we? I think it's Monday that we work on this, right? We're gonna handle an event handler. We're gonna say vm dot what do we call it? Update, right? Update website. Implemented in the function update website down below. Is going to take as argument the website objects, and what we're going to do is, again, we're going to delegate to the service, right? The controller doesn't touch the data, right? It delegates to someone whose only reason of being is updating the data, okay? Handling the data. So I'm going to say website service update website, right? I'm going to pass the website object, okay? And then after that, we should navigate where? Back to the list, right? Back to the list. So after that's successful, we should go back to the list. So that's going to be location.url, and then it's the same URL we were looking at earlier. So I'm lazy, so I'm going to copy that from the previous controller and paste it right here. Right? It's the same user ID. Oh, we don't have the user ID. We never parsed it. We never parsed it. So I guess we need to parse that too, right? We need the user ID. I think it's UID, right? And we're going to use the user ID for at least for being able to go back to the list of websites. Anyway, so what's update website? So what update website? What's that going to do? Let's declare that here in the service. Update website is going to take the new values for the website, right? And it's going to update all the attributes for the old website, right? It's going to first have to find that website for the ID, right? Actually, do we pass the ID? Update website, Probably website already has the ID, inside, probably. So we can look for it. We can say update website, implement it. We have the website here. Let's look up that website. We can use our local find website by ID, right? That's very convenient. You can say, actually, wait a minute. We want to iterate, find it. Once we find it, we want to update the attributes, right? So actually, no, let's copy this. Let's copy this. And it's going around and iterating. It'll be website dot ID. Presumably, it's part of the object, the new object. And what are we going to do? We're going to replace, right? We're going to replace all the values that are in the old website. All this code is going to go away, right? Because all this code should live where? On the server, right? It should live in the database should be doing all this, right? But it's a good practice for us to play around with JavaScript, to play around with Angular and whatnot. But all this is gonna be moved over to the server, right? Maybe starting today, hopefully. But for now, right, we're just gonna replace the current instance with the new instance, right? With the new instance that has the new name, the new description, the new everything, right? All right, so let's see if that works. Let's see if that works. Edit website. Wait a minute, which website are we talking about here? Okay, so let me create a new one. I'll create cnn.com, and I want to edit it. I want to change its name, CNN1123. I'm going to say OK, and I navigate, and it blew up. What happened? Let's oh, nan. Oh, something terribly happened here. Okay, I think we were not able to parse the user. Oh, did we parse it correctly? Oh, UIS, UID. Ah, computers. Okay, let's try it again. Let's go back. Let's go back. Let's create a brand new one, CNN. And let me edit that. Okay, I have the user ID. 123. I'm going to say OK. Okay, there it is. It's modified. See that? It's been properly modified. What about removing? So let's change this delete button. Let's change the delete button. Instead of saying submit. Instead of saying submit, where is that? Where is that? Instead of saying submit, I'm just going to replace this with an anchor using Bootstrap's button class, and I'm going to paint it red, right? Because it's kind of dangerous that you're going to remove something. I'm going to say button danger, okay? And I'm also going to use the class button block, which is going to render this as a block item, right? It's going to take up the entire width of the page, right? And it's going to have the delete text on it, right? So that if I click on it, right now it's not doing anything. I want this to be removed. I want the particular website to be removed. Oops. What happened? If I go here and I click on delete, I want to be able to remove Wikipedia, right? So let's do that. We need an ng-click that will tell the controller my intentions of removing this website, right? So say remove website, and I'll pass as argument. I think the only thing I need is the current ID of the website. .id. Okay, I think that's all I need. And in the controller side, I'm going to create an event handler for that, right? It'll be called remove website. Okay, and implement it down here. This one's going to take as argument the website ID. And again, we're not going to do it ourselves. We're going to delegate to the service, right? So let's do that. So the web service should be something like website service.remove website, taking into as argument the ID of the website. And once we successfully remove it, where do we want to go? Again, back to the list of websites, right? So there's a pattern here. So let's go and implement a remove website. Let's declare it in the service. Let's declare it right here, right? And let's implement it. And this takes as argument the website ID. So to remove it, what we're going to do is that we're going to iterate looking for this website. All right, so let's copy this. So when we do find it, we want to remove it from the array, right? We want to remove it from the current array. So to remove it, we can use the JavaScript splice function, right? The splice function. You might want to take a look at the documentation for the splice. Not spice, splice. The splice function can be used for both adding and removing content, right? If the first argument to the function is the index where you want to start either adding or removing, okay, in an array. So it works like this. You give it an array, dot splice, right? And then what index of that array do you want to manipulate? So that's a required argument. The second argument can be interpreted in different ways, right? If the delete count is 0, then this is interpreted as an insert. Okay? If the delete count is 0, then the rest of the items, right, are considered as new items to add to the existing array. If instead the delete count is 1 or more, then it's interpreted as I want to remove that many items, starting at index start, right? So since we want to remove, we're going to use that we're going to use the index, wherever we find it, and then the delete count will be 1. We just want to remove that one website. Yes? All right. So let's do that. So the array is the website array. If we want to splice out at location W, right? That's where we found it, and we just want to splice out just one element, right? And we should be done. All right. So let's try that. So if we refresh and say delete, it didn't work. Something's going on. What's going on? Oops. Let's debug this. Okay, looks like we have some console website not defined. Website. Ooh, website ID. Oh no, that's wrong, right? That's an argument, right? That's an argument right here. All right, so let's try it again. Let's reload. So if I delete this and I go back, notice that Wikipedia is no longer there, right? Right. If I add CNN.com, right, and I add CNET.com, right, and I add Gizmodo.com, right, and I then go into any one of them, right? Say I want to remove CNN, and I remove delete, right? Notice that it's gone, right? It's gone from the list of websites. That makes sense, right? So I think that was maybe the last piece, perhaps that some folks were asking about adding and new IDs and how they're related to other objects. That I think should be enough for you. Make sense? Any questions? No? All right, we got about 30 more minutes. I'd like to get started with the server, Node.js. Okay. So up to this point, we've been working all on client-side technology, right? It's JavaScript running on the browser, right? HTML, CSS, making pages look pretty, using HTML to create a layout, right? To lay out pages from left, right, blocks and inlines and whatnot. And we've been using JSON as the data to represent all our data, right? And right now, the data has only lived on the client, right? So that if we refresh the clients, if I refresh, everything's gone, right? Because it reloads all the JavaScript, it reloads everything, right? And it has no context. It has no way to remember anything between a reload page, right? So the data should live in somewhere where it's a little more, has a longer lifespan, right? For instance, either the server or better yet, in a database. Okay. So basically, this next couple of weeks, we're gonna move from the client, and we're gonna add now the server side, right? And we're gonna store all our data there, right? On the server. We're not yet. We're not gonna touch the database just yet. Right? We're gonna stay in the server for a little while. We're gonna talk about two very important topics, right? One of them is that the client is running on one machine, right, and the server presumably is running on some other machine, right? Obviously, when we're developing in our development environment, they're both running on the same machine, yes. But in reality, when a real person will be accessing your server, their browsers are at their home, at their office, accessing, communicating with a server that's running in some other machine, right? So that adds the challenge of latency, right? There there's some lag between the time I click on the button, right, and the time it travels through the web until it hits the server. The server needs to do certain things, right? At some point, it will respond successfully or not unsuccessfully, right? So we need to take into account that latency. What happens during that time, right? So one thing that we could do is just wait, right? We wait until the server comes back, right? Typically, that is unacceptable because the browser, the JavaScript that's running in your browser is a single-threaded process, right? That if it stops waiting for something, that's the only thing it's going to do, right? It's just going to, if the server for some reason went down, or it's taking too long, or it's querying a database, or it's doing some network issues, your only thread running on the browser will just stop there waiting for the server to come back, right? That's unacceptable because if you have other things going on, such as animations and other user interactions that the user needs to be handled, right? All that is halted, right? Your application becomes completely frozen, right? Waiting for this thread to come back. Make sense? Right? So we need to handle that issue, right? I'm going to handle it using what's called asynchronous process communication, right? We're going to have these two processes running on two different machines, right? They need to communicate, right? And the way they're going to communicate is using asynchronous communication. Up to this point, all we've been using is synchronous communication, right? Because everything has been running on the same thread, the same JavaScript, so you can make function calls, right, on the same thread, right? Because you're guaranteed for it to come back immediately, right? Okay. So that's one of the big topics that we're going to be handling for the next week or so. The other big topic that we're going to be working on is that we're going to be mapping the data and the relationship between the data. We're going to be using a particular syntax of the URL called RESTful APIs, okay? Which we have alluded to a little bit so far, but now we're going to formally talk about it. Okay, that when you ask for data, right, when you ask for data from the server, the syntax that you use to build your query, right, has a particular structure, right? And that structure typically is based on the pieces of data that you're holding, right? The users, the websites, the widgets, the pages, all that is data, right? And the data also has structure, right? It has relationships with it, right? Users build websites. Websites are made up of a whole bunch of pages. Pages contain a whole bunch of widgets. There's relationship, right? There's structure to that data, right? So the query, the URL that we use to query for that data has usually it's a good idea to map it or to be informed by that structure. Okay, so that just by looking at the URL, you can see that it has a structure. So, oh, users, websites, pages, right? There's a one-to-many relationship between all these. Right? So those are the two big topics that we're going to be talking about this week and next week, perhaps a little bit. And Node.js is very, very easy to create these RESTful services. Right? It's trivial and it's really great. All right. So first of all, what is Node.js? So the overall architecture has been that right now the architecture has been that here's your browser, here's the server, right? And we've gone to retrieve one single page, index.html, right? It loads, and once it has the local copy, this one goes back asking for more stuff, right? It asks for all the JS files, right? Our config.js, our app.js. It goes off to the cloud, to Google to retrieve Angular, right? The JavaScript. It also goes to Bootstrap to retrieve the style, right? The CSS. It loads all that, right? And it renders on your browser. And then as you click through the buttons and the ng clicks and whatnot, you navigate fetching other HTMLs on demand, right? Other HTML pages, but you never leave index page, right? You always stay in the index page. These are snippet HTML pieces, right, that are injected, right, strategically to give the illusion of navigation, right? The illusion of going from one page to the next, right? But implementing the single page philosophy, right? Single page applications. Yes, that's where we've been. And now up to this point, the data has lived where? Has been encapsulated in web services, right? The website web service, the user the user service, the website service, the page service, right? All these services have been hosting all this data, right here. And what we're going to do is we're going to move all this data. We're going to move it more towards where it belongs, right? It belongs way on the server side, on the database side, okay? Right. So we're going to take all that data. We're going to move it over to the server, and now these web services, what they're going to do, instead of hosting the data, right? Instead, what they're going to do is they're going to handle the communication. They're going to handle the communication to the server, right? You're asking for the list of websites? Wait, just a second. Let me go fetch that to the server. The server is going to respond with a list of websites, and then it's going to give it to the controller for rendering, right? But it's going to use asynchronous communication, right? Not synchronous communication like we've seen so far, right? Because these two things are executing in two different processes, right? And there's latency, and we have to handle that latency, right? Yes? Everybody okay? All right. So first of all, what is Node.js? So this is Node.js, right? The server is Node.js. So Node.js, I think at the beginning of the semester we did a little bit of hello world with Node.js. So I'm not going to go over that again, right? But basically Node.js is just an interpreter for JavaScript, right? It interprets the JavaScript language, but at the command line, right? At a desktop, as opposed to in a browser, right? Up until recently, JavaScript was mostly considered a language exclusively for browser programming, right? Where you can the code would run on the browser, right? It could interact with the browser. It could listen in for clicks, for drags, for mouse movements. It could manipulate the DOM, right? Add dynamic content to the page from the browser. More recently, well, for quite a while now, we've been exploring the idea of using the same language that has been so successful on browsers, but now executing it on the desktop, right? Now, when you run it on the desktop, you have the same exact syntax, right? Same things that you could do in a browser. Most of them are there. Yeah? You have var, you have the objects and JSON and all that. The same for loop, same if statements, same syntax, the same exact language, right? But the context is different, right? Up to this point, the JavaScript running on the browser knows that it's running on a browser, right? That's manipulating HTML. That there's a window, there's a mouse, there's a keyboard, right? Here you're running on a server, right? You're running on a desktop. There is no window, right? There are no buttons. There are no keyboards. There is no HTML, right? Okay. When JavaScript runs on a browser, it has a user interface, right? It has forms. It has buttons. People can interact with it, right? On the desktop, it's not meant for that, right? It's not meant for user interaction. Right? Instead, it's good at what you can do on the server. What can you do on the server? A lot of things that you could not do on the browser. On the browser, you can't access databases, right? You can't access the local file system. Right? You can't just go out and do any network connections, right? Because you're running on in this box, in this protected environment, which is the browser, right? The browser does not allow you to access the local file system. It would be a security concern, right? You're downloading somebody's code and I'm running it on my machine. No, I'm not going to let them look at my hard drive, right? I'm not going to let them take over my machine, right? But if you're running on a console, right, I am deliberately running it. I'm typing run the JavaScript. It's running. It's my desktop. It's running on my desktop. It should be allowed to do everything you could do on my desktop, right? You should be able to access the file system, right? So I can so a lot of the things that you could not do on the browser, right? JavaScript now running on the desktop. Now you have these new powers, right? You lose the HTML, you lose the CSS, you lose the user interaction, but you gain other powers, right? You can read the file system, you can do network connections and connect with whoever you want, right? You're unrestricted, right? Unlike on the browser, JavaScript on the browser is only allowed to communicate back to the parent, right? From wherever it was downloaded originally, right? If it was downloaded from CNN, JavaScript is only allowed to go back to CNN and talk to CNN, right? It's not allowed to just go off and talk to anyone else, right? So there's, again, security issues. But running on the server, I can connect to anyone, right? I don't have those security constraints, right? Same thing, I can, unlike in the browser, JavaScript on the browser can't access databases, right? Well, maybe a little database, toy database running on the browser, right? But that's not a real database, right? Any data access has to go through network connections, right? Instead, running on the server, JavaScript can connect to MySQL, to MongoDB, to SQL Server, to any database, right? It can connect to any database running locally on the local machine or running across the world, right? It can connect to any database remotely. So very, very powerful. Okay. All this time we've been using the Node.js. We've been starting it from here, from the command line inside our IDE. Okay. What we're going to do now, right, is that outside of the public directory, in the public directory is the directory where we are hosting everything that is meant for rendering on the browser, right? Everything that is in the public directory, right? We're going to start coding outside of the public directory. We're going to have things that are running locally on our server, on our machine, right? Not on the browser, right? So for instance, let's create here something. Let's create here new. We'll create app, right? So in this directory, we're going to create our application. Actually, let me give it a name. I believe in the assignment, I asked you to call it. I think I asked you to call it assignment. Right? I think I asked you to call it assignment. And if you're doing your own project, I ask you to create yet another directory here called project, I believe. Okay. So this will be your server-side code for your project, and this will be where you're going to put your server-side code for this assignment that we've been working throughout the semester, right? And I'm going to create yet another one. I'm going to create another one, and I'm going to call it Sandbox, where we can do some tests and some play around with I'll call it Sandbox. Okay, so here's my Sandbox. So in here, I'm going to create here a JavaScript, and I'm going to say hello. Right, and I can do just console.hello world, right? Right, and I can just run this from here. I can just create a new run configuration. I can say create a new Node.js, and I want to run the JavaScript file that is under portal? No, where is it? I don't remember where it is. Wait, where is this? Here. Yeah, that's where I want it. Why didn't you put me there? NEU 2016 fall. NEU 2016. Okay, NEU. I guess that's not it. Oh, there it is. NEU 2016 fall. CS5610. WebDev fall. And Sandbox. And there's hello. There it is. Right. So I can run it. I'll call this hello. I'll say OK. And then I can run this. And notice that it says hello world. Right. Or I can run it from the terminal. Right, where am I? I am in Git. I think it's this sandbox right here that we just created, right? You can go in the sandbox. There's hello, and I can run it from the command line. I can say node space hello.js. There it is. It's hello world. Yes? So the only thing this is, the only thing that Node is an interpreter that can take as argument a JavaScript file and run it at the command line. That's all it is. Okay, there's nothing special about it. What really makes this platform powerful, right, is all the, well, like any other platform, right? All platforms are very boring, right? You know, any platform, Java, .NET, they're all boring. Right? They don't have anything interesting until you consider all the libraries and all the community around that particular platform, right? When you look at .NET and all the libraries that are available for .NET or Java, all the libraries that are available for Java, that's what makes that that particular platform interesting, right? And the support that the community gives to that particular platform, right? And all the open source projects that are freely available. Node.js has a very extensive and vibrant community that creates lots and lots of libraries that we're going to be using throughout the semester. One of them we've been using all along, the Express library, right? The Express library allows you to create, in 2-3 lines of code, you can create a server, right? And that's what we've been doing in this server.js, remember? Right, in the server.js. In server.js, right, in a couple of lines of code, we created an instance of the Express library, right? And we just started listening at a port 3000, right? It was very, very easy, just in a couple of lines of code to create a server, right? So yeah, that's all it is. And Express is one of the libraries that we're going to be using throughout the semester. And let's create here in hello.js. What we need to do is create modules, right, that implement certain things that we need on the server side, right? So for instance, we're going to be creating a module in your assignment and in your projects. You'll be creating modules called, for instance, app.js. Right? So this will be one of the modules that you're going to be creating in your assignment that allows you to create all the code that you need for your server-side technology. Right? So let's create a library here, a module. We'll call it module. You create modules by using the module global variable, and then associating to it a class that can be instantiated as an instance that can then be loaded by other modules, right? Very much like what we do in JavaScript on the client. In JavaScript, to do this, we use the pattern, the IFI pattern, right? We put everything in a parentheses, we put a function, we put everything in the function, right? And then we call it immediately, right? It's an immediately invoked function that gets invoked, right? But in that case, we do it to protect the namespaces, so there's no namespace collision, right? Over here, Node.js, you don't have to worry about those things, right? In the browser, you do have to worry because your JavaScript is not the only JavaScript running, right? Because you're also loading jQuery, you're loading Angular, you're loading Bootstrap, you're loading tons of libraries that are competing in the same namespace that you're writing to, right? That's why we protect everything in an if statement, right? Over here, we are the server. We are the only ones who are coding here, right? Node.js has a mechanism. It has a formal modular mechanism that you can load modules, and each module has its own namespace. There's no concern. Well, obviously you can still run into collisions, right? But you have to work at it. Most modules are designed not to litter the namespace, right? So to create, this is one of the ways that Node.js allows you to create modular, self-contained pieces of code that can then be used outside. Okay. All right. So here we're going to create all sorts of things, right? That will allow us to create the APIs, right? So let's look at an example API here, right? For instance, we're listening at port 3000, right? And what we could do is some of the code that we already have for the websites. Where's the websites? Where are they? Websites, website service. There's website service, right? Notice the data over here, website service. You see that? Right? It's currently running where? On the browser, right? Right? We can move this over to the server. Let's go to server.js. Right? We could copy it here. But now where's this? It's on the server side, right? The client's not seeing this at all. The client's not seeing. What I like to be able to do is remove it from here, comment this out, right, and fetch the data where it really lives. Right? It lives on the server. It lives on the database, right? So how can I retrieve it? Let's see. Let's do this. Let's find website for user. Let's do this one, right? This is the one that lists all the website for a given user. Let's do this one, right? So how do we retrieve that? We're gonna blow this. We're gonna blow this away. We're not gonna do that. Instead, I want to go to the server. How do I go to the server? I need to make an HTTP connection. Right? I need to. Here the client, the service is right here. It needs to make an HTTP connection to the server to go fetch something from the server. Make sense? All right, let's do that. All right, to do that, just like there is $scope, right? What's $scope? $scope allows the controller to talk to the HTML, right? Well, $HTTP allows the client-side code to talk to the server. All right? And let's use it. HTTP, $HTTP allows you to do for instance, a get operation. You do a get, right? Do a get to the server at a particular URL. And the URL, I can choose whatever the URL is, right? Let's do something really, really simple. It'll be something like maybe /websites. Give me all the websites. Okay. Let's do that. Let's refresh this. Let's go back to. I think this is the page, right? I think this is the page. Let's look at inspect. If I refresh this, right? Notice I get an error, right? If I go to console, it's going to say I tried to make a connection to this URL. Look at that. See that? This website is exactly this call right here. It tried to make a connection to the server. There's a server running a local host, port 3000, right? And to the URL that you say right here, right? And the URL could be whatever you choose, right? If I refresh, notice that I tried to connect to the URL, and the server never responded. The server never responded. Okay, so I get a 404, right? The server doesn't know about this URL, okay? So we need to tell the server, hey server, somebody's going to contact you at this URL, right? We can go back to the server and say, hey server, app.get, somebody's going to contact you at this URL. App.get app, if you remember, app is the instance of the Express library. See that? Right? It's the instance of the Express library, and it has a whole bunch of methods, right? One of the methods allows you to configure a response to a get, right? To an incoming get, right? You can respond to a post, to a put, to a delete, to a get, but get is the most common one, right? Get is the most common way of communicating between two machines. So here I'm receiving the website, and then you can give a function. You can give a function saying, what do you want to do, right? This function will be invoked if the server gets a request, an incoming request at that URL. Okay, and here we can respond. The framework passes you two objects. One that represents the incoming request, and the other object, response, is the object that allows you to respond to whoever is requesting the data. Right. So here I'm going to use the response to respond, to send back, right, all the websites. I'm just going to respond with all the websites, right? Since I modified the server, I need to restart the server. Let me restart the server. It's running already. So I'm going to restart it. Where is it? Server. Restart. So now if I do that again and I respond, it's still not liking it. Oh, website. Sorry. Restart. If I respond, notice that it no longer is complaining, right? It says it did find it. I can look at the network and see exactly what happened, right? The network says, I generated a get, right? I generated a get. The header, there it is, right? That's the get, that's the HTTP request that went out at this URL. It was a get, and the response was okay. The server said, yes, I got it. And you can see the raw response. The raw response that comes from the server is this JSON. It's the array. Look at that. It's the array, right? It's the array that lives right here. So the server response was this data. It's now where? It came back to the client, and now the client, the web service over here, can then send it back to the controller, and the controller can send it back to the view for rendering. Make sense? And that's what we're going to do next Monday. All right? All right, thank you. If you could please read the assignment, the server assignment, so we can go over it quickly on Monday, and we can start working on it together. All right? Okay, thank you. I have office hours. I'll be in my office till 3 o'clock if you want to come and chat. All right? Thank you.